Our first speaker will be Kieren Lovell, who led also a workshop yesterday on the social engineering in action, and in his daily life, he is head of the Tallinn Technical University CERT, incident response instructor for the Defense Academy of the United Kingdom, lecturer at the King's and Pembroke College in Cambridge, product evangelist for the SpectX, and a board member of the Cyber Struggle. Mr. Lovell, the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Well, this is a confusing name for my presentation. What I should call it is "This is why I am never going on a ship again." So, from my side, what we're going to just give a bit of an introduction to myself and what we're doing within universities and within the military. So, yesterday we did a little bit of a challenge. I got a number of people to send a spoofed email to a cybersecurity specialist to actually click that link. I told him he is going to get spoofed yesterday. He fell for it. So I'm complete to say, congratulations, CERT.LV, Latvia, you got the first link within 10 minutes of you sending that email. This is not because anybody's bad, this is because this is reality. This is how people communicate, and the way we can use this is to our advantage. So from my background, for those that didn't have yesterday, I used to be a nuclear ballistic missile submarine. I used to sleep there, between number 3 and number 4 nuclear missile tube. Longest I spent underwater was 138 days as a cryptographic officer. And after doing that for 2 years, I decided to go into bomb disposal for 5 years. And then my ship crashed in Norway. So if you're doing any social engineering, you'll notice that, yep. I must admit I wasn't driving, but I then got the Norwegian Navy asked if I'd like to work for them as a civilian. I said no. They said, we'll pay you 3 times as much. I went, cracking, I'll start tomorrow. And then I became a lieutenant commander as a foreigner in their military, as a pirate hunter in Somalia in charge of 5 warships. So during the day, I was a battle watch commander, and in the evening, I was actually doing these intelligence gathering as well as chief information security officer. But then I wanted to see what real political warfare is like, so I went to the University of Cambridge to see how academics do it, and they're far more nasty, I can tell you. So my problem is quite simple, really. When we're doing security checking, we like to do box ticking. We go to our lovely compliance managers, we say, I would like you to do a pen test. Okay, what do you want us to check? That box, just that box, nothing else. The one that's off, sir. Yes, the one that's off. That's great. Reduce the scope until you get that nice shiny certificate. And even when we are trying to open it up, we tell pen testers what we know about ourselves, which half the time isn't right, especially in a university. I had no idea what crap was connected to my network. I remember 2 years in at Cambridge, I then found there was an incident at a college that I didn't know existed. This was a new shiny thing that I found, and it happens. So I wanted to change the way that we did this. So I've set up something called Exercise Mercury. And the idea is to kind of reverse what we did in the military. We always use the focus of know your enemy. It's very easy for us to pick holes in other competitors. It's not very easy, however, to mark your own homework, because you know your own problems. So I set up a Cybersecurity Premier League, and the first one we had was Cambridge University versus TalTech. I thought Cambridge University would annihilate TalTech, because, you know, we've #1 university on the planet. Well, #2 now, thanks Oxford. We got annihilated by TalTech. It wasn't even funny. Why? They were motivated. And the Professor Olaf did something beautiful, which was, if you manage to do Cambridge over, you don't have to do the cryptographic exam. I could not give anyone that motivation. My phone was pinging left, right, and center at 3, 4 in the morning with vulnerability, vulnerability, vulnerability. And I thought, this is good. I've just got a free pen test from 60 master's students, all using creative ways of thinking and not doing it necessarily the way I would. But then I also decided we need to make this a bit more challenging and more interesting. So I started bringing accountants, bringing in people that work in administration to do process hacking, to look at our HR procedures. And it turns out the easiest way you can hack the University of Cambridge is to fill in the bank change form and just put your new account details and sign it on a PDF, because they were assuming no one checked the signature. They were correct, and we found this out exactly the same time when there was an incident where £25,000 had left a professor's bank account at Christmas and went into somebody else's. Why do the complex hack when the front door is open? But it's really hard to see when your front door is open. So doing it in a competitive way, we do it for free. We've now got 22 universities in the UK. It's not limited to the UK. Please, if you want to get on board, we'll give you a free pen test, and we'll let you use our place as a digital playground as well. We do have certain rules. The rule is everything is in scope, but don't go active, unless if you ask us first. And then I'll award points in 2 ways. One, if you'd say, this server, can we poke it further? If you say no, that's because it's vulnerable, so they get the points. And if they say, yeah, of course, have a look around, and then we still get in, then that's great. But you're always in command. You're always in charge, and we make sure that we delete all the information afterwards. But we also make them come up with a storyline. I give them the motivation. Not only do they not have to do an exam if they pass it, but we also give them a scenario that they're pissed off ex-PhDs, or pissed off they didn't get accepted for Cambridge. We give them that sort of motivating factor so they get really into it. Rather than just looking for lists of vulnerabilities, they're looking at how they can cause the most damage to us, which is what a hacker's doing. And that is a much better report for me, rather than just a list of boring CVEs. If I can find out how you can hurt me, this is good. And we've had some interesting results, which we'll go into a little bit in the next slide. But I kind of thought, universities, they're a bit easy. Let's do my old employer. Let's do NATO. And we actually expanded the scope a bit to maritime. And I came up with the stupidest hypothesis on the planet. I thought the merchant navy would be terrible, and the military would be award-winning, and we could get to laugh at, you know, at the silly civilians. No, not at all. And it was because I didn't understand the situation on the ground. Merchant ships, average age 45, male, married, bored, away for 9 months, don't do Facebook. British ships or Norwegian ships, 18 years old, horny, male. Yeah, oh, bugger. Once I took that into consideration, it became more apparent of why they were quite terrible. But, as I said, with both operations, everything's in scope. We use resources from different open source intelligence, Shodan, Nmaps, but only passive scans. We always ask for permission. We're not doing it randomly, because it's not particularly great. But I never want any prior information. I don't want to know your IP address range, because I'll find stuff that you don't know you had. I love AWS, I love Google Cloud Services, or that random academic that's plugged in a PhD server from 1997 and forgotten about it. We will tell you more about what's on your network, or what you're responsible for, than you might even know yourself. So, state of play in the United Kingdom. With all of the disciplines that we had, we also did process, physical, software, and OSINT. And we also do a spear phishing campaign as well, but only for the people, 2 people. We don't do the campaign one. And we tell them, you're going to be done on this day. So far, 100% success rate. There's even ridiculous. It's been very, very good. But that's not because they're stupid. It's because they're targeted. It's just how it works. So what have we found in the universities? So far, cloud is being embraced heavily by universities. But they're not actually updating the software. They're just lifting the legacy crap and then moving it to the cloud. That's pretty much it. So that lovely intruder detection system and firewall they've got, I'm not entirely sure what they're protecting anymore, because they've moved the servers out and students work from home, the single sign-on system's in the cloud, the storage is in the cloud. It's from pretty much, there was a couple of universities, I could see that their firewall was protecting their firewall management console. Not really doing much at all. One university, who remained nameless, we found that they just passed an audit and a pen test from one of the big four, and within 11 minutes into the exercise, they downloaded 65,000 copies of passports for students that have applied for that university by accident. It was just doing a SQL injection scan and bugger. So that was a bit of an interesting one. Cambridge University has 25,000 usernames and passwords that are leaked online from other resources. The easiest way to do manipulation on them, of course, was Ashley Madison. We are the cheating capital of Europe. But we beat Oxford, so it's not bad. But when having a look at their passwords, we could see that they were quite... the advice that we were telling them, it was not being incorporated at all. There were some quite unique and interesting passwords that came up. And we also found that a number of people assume that the password will never be read. So I got to learn some quite interesting sexual fetishes just by looking at their password. So do remember, if it does get breached, you don't want to be embarrassed too much. So these are my students having a wander. This was a safe, that a filing cabinet, and it was left with a key in there, and when we opened it up, there was some cash. Very nicely done. Fantastic security here. If you're a guest and you're a student, use this one, because you're only limited to 3 gig a day. Don't use the top one. That's why it's in red, because you're not allowed to use that one, student, but it's there. I actually looked afterwards and found out there's about 3 people connected to that network. This is a security fence which my student cloned through. The bars are that wide, she just stepped through it. Here is a lovely, for some reason, unknown to humanity, that is a router with the ports exposed on the top. And this was for the University of Cambridge Risk Assessment Office, which I thought was quite interesting. In the UK, we comply with all European laws, currently. I did not like Brexit. But with a lovely little chart like that, my students just take the photo of the firefighting map of the organisation. They know exactly where to go, and that's how they found this lovely wad of cash, because it says finance office. The doors were unlocked, and they walked in. This was the data center window, open just at the top there, and forgetting cybersecurity, there's a ridiculous amount of gaming computers in there that you could have just instantly nicked and walked out of. And one of my students actually got in there just by picking up a laptop, wearing a lanyard, and just, there was no pass, there was no ID. But was just carrying this heavy box. So everybody, including the IT staff, security staff, opened the door and let them go through all the way to the data center. So yeah, pretty much nailed, done it. So does this work in the military? And as I said, I thought, they'll be all right, there'll be a few cock-ups. It won't be too bad. It turned out I have a better tactical picture of operations in the Baltic than NATO did. They get updates every hour. I get them every 16 seconds. Why? Snapchat. There's a feature on Snapchat called Snap Map. And when you ever post a picture, it puts your latitude, longitude, course, and speed and marks it on there. It's quite easy to detect a military ship because it's in the middle of the ocean. Pop in there, add an attractive Baltic girl, like one of the students did, and yeah, it didn't stop. We actually did have to stop at one point, though, because, forget cybersecurity, he was doing mine disposal and actually took a selfie next to the mine. So, screw cybersecurity, radios really don't like mines, you know, don't rub it all over it. Name, address, everything. We found on Twitter a beautiful picture with the captain doing the, looking into the distance, with daily orders behind, with full intentions of the ship's plan for the day. The systems that were isolated, yeah, they're isolated, but they're isolated so they're not patched, they're not maintained. So how do you hack The navigation system of a warship. What you do is you use Microsoft Paint to open the chart. You move the chart 200 yards to the right. You save it and then post it to them. They'll update the chart. That's it. That was the way we did it. It definitely crashes the ship every time. Just, they'll look at the chart. All of a sudden, you edit the one that's slightly there. We found all of the role email addresses for UK Command on DIIF, which included nuclear submarines. Obviously, they don't receive email when they're at sea because, you know, water and under it. But you've still got the exposure, and some people were that silly to use their military accounts for dating websites. So screw the password. I'll just tell you that if you don't give me your password, I'll tell your wife. And let's be honest, Commander-in-Chief Home Fleet comes first before any military. And there were some other interesting websites that they were used for as well. But then it got really dumb. Anyone here worked with the military or been in the military? Yep. Okay. So we all know Tempest or Blue Rooms. You're not allowed a phone in an ops room, are you? You are not allowed to take broadcast equipment in there. You're not allowed to take any pictures. You're not allowed to say anything about it. You would definitely make sure that you turn all of the equipment off in your operational room because you wouldn't want anyone having screen leakage. And social media rules would be strict. You wouldn't have this tweeted. So, if we could run the video. This is on the Royal Navy's website.
Hello and welcome to HMS Dauntless. My name's Matt Seville.
And I'm Becky Watson. Let's go have a look around.
Sam?
Yeah.
Mind just giving these chaps from the 260 DVD a quick bit on Dauntless Ops Room?
Yeah, no worries. This is the Type 45 HMS Dauntless Ops Room. At the back we can see we've got the MCO, which is your comms. We've also got your UW team. In the middle we have our electronic warfare. And on the side around you have the gunners firing our 30 mils, our 4.5, obviously our Viper control, our Radisson missiles, and we have our surface and air team behind me. It's a much goochier option. It's much more user-friendly, being Windows-based. Every console has a VUU, it's basically your comms. You can ring down the mesh, you can talk to all your different group lines, you can set off the general alarm. They are really impressive bits of kit.
Cheers, mate. Well, thanks very much. And guys, if you want to come follow me. As you can see, the club swing has done a fantastic job here. We've got a CV suite. Just below us, we have a free weight suite, another area of the ship. We also have a conditioning suite.
One of the best parts of the ship is the central lift.
Obviously, everybody knows that store ships a big job in the Navy. It's like so much manhandling objects into the vertiflows and stuff like that on other ships. But on Type 45s and the Dauntless, you just put it in the lift, send it down to the storerooms, and then job done. It's easy as that.
Ship's control centre. As you can see it's slightly different to other ship's control centres or MCRs. You can see we've got double consoles here, all electronic. Big screen there. Right, we actually use this to monitor our platform management system, which is basically the electronic means which we use to monitor all our equipment and actually start equipment. For example, a gas turbine, I can actually start a gas turbine by a single click. Simple as that. All right, everything else is actually monitored with platform management system throughout.
Thanks for that. If we just
Right, this is the Junior Rates complex.
As you could see from that promotional 4K video that they have uploaded to YouTube, you can zoom in, you can see the radar frequencies, you can see the capability of everything that's going on. You've got people's names, so I can now start tracking where they put on Facebook and Instagram. You've shared the building management system. If you have a look at that screen, you can see it's exactly the same as building management systems on land. It's just a customized version. You can find the vulnerabilities. This has been there for 10 years. Again, in other places, 10 years would mean, oh, they're not using that now. In 10 years in the military is remarkably small. My God, this was still looking space age to the crap I had to put up with. But it hasn't actually been taken seriously. Why? Yes, cybersecurity is important. PR is more important. They're not all understanding. Cybersecurity is still, it's the IT's problem. And that really shouldn't be the case. It should be everyone. And I think it's partially our fault for doing this. we keep adding the word cyber. It's not cyber, it's security. It is everyone's responsibility to do this. So what we actually then do from further than that is, I've proven with forgetting all of their operations equipment, I can do better tracking than NATO operations. We also used poor management of other port authorities. We predicted that one of the ships was going to come in alongside Gdansk, so we then had a look on Showdown, and there were a number of webcams in Gdansk port that we used to look at to confirm the ship is coming in, and they were right. So they could actually use the infrastructure of the port to confirm that everything that was being publicly put on was there. ECDIS and WECDIS, the navigation systems, were possible to breach because it is post to do the update. It is a post, and they use the very secure hashing technique of counting up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's a website that says which update you are due to get, and it's post, and they're at sea. So just send them an envelope, which again is all online. Charging phones is a problem, but not too much. Mainly it was the fact that their policy said they weren't allowed phones at sea. But the only person I've actually ever found that read that policy was the person that wrote it. Everyone's using it for their alarms, because you have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. The policy's not enforceable. But the knowledge on ships is shocking, because they're being regurgitated the same crap that we've been hearing. Don't click links in emails. They're not thinking about that they are an individual jigsaw piece that can be used to collect the whole picture. This is what we need to get them to understand. But then we found something particularly interesting. This is a website called radioscanner.ru. And in the military, we all know, radio frequencies are restricted or confidential. I don't know why, because our comm plan is entirely online and published by Russia, radioscanner.ru. There is a voice recording of me on HMS Roald Amundsen from 2013, where they have pinpointed my radio transmission. And it's quite simple. After the collapse of the Soviet empire, they had a shit ton of electronic warfare specialists, and they've still got the equipment. And they're bored, so they made a social media site. And they're sharing MP3s, they're using directional finding, aircraft. Why bother? You can actually find most of the Syrian operations on this site. So why bother buying all that expensive hardware when you've got 20,000 volunteers all publishing it online? So how we're using this data is not only telling people what the problems are, but we then like to, once we collect the vulnerability and work out how we could hurt it, we then do a tabletop including all 3 levels. So strategy level from management, technical, and operational. And we want it to go wrong, because half the time when you do an exercise, it's communications that's the problem. Technical don't know how to talk to the management don't know how to understand technical, and you just end up waffling. I like to do this in an exercise where you get heated, they swear, they hug it out afterwards, but then they actually understand each other's positions way better. So before I open up for questions, I'd also just like to show you an end of how I was buggered over by. When I was in the Norwegian Navy, I was celebrating 7 years at 7 Seas. And they took a picture of me for the ship's newspaper. And some bright spark decided to post it on Facebook with my name, rank, lucky number 7, Lieutenant Commander Kieren Nicholas Lovell, and Operation Ocean Shield. If you Google Ocean Shield, it says I'm fighting Al-Shabaab, which isn't great. I'm allergic to, terrorists knowing my location and face. I don't like that. One of the unnamed senior officers wrote in the comments, "Congratulations, Kieren. Looking forward to buying you a gin and tonic at 8 o'clock on Wednesday at Hotel Djibouti." The NATO counter-piracy mission then shared it, and then just to really help out, the CIA's own Facebook page then shared my face to 1.5 million impressions. It wasn't that great. I didn't like that day. And I'd like to say that sometimes I think I'm brave. I'm not stupid. I did not go for a gin and tonic. But the reason I always use this as an example is, again, it's not stupidity. These people are security experts, but they weren't thinking. They weren't at that time. They made a mistake, and that mistake cascaded until it became a bigger thing. It happens. We need to change the way we're thinking from when you're going to get hacked, and how do we respond when it happens? When there's a leak, when there's a compromise. We just need to change to how do we respond to it? We need to reduce that time. We need to make people report things when they find them and put it as a positive thing rather than a negative. Other than that, and how do I live in a cave? Any questions?
I didn't see any questions online, but excellent.
How we can know this was not a fake post?
If you go down on the NATO counter-piracy one, I could never take it off from there. I took it off from the CIA, but I couldn't take it off from NATO counter-piracy. So if you do keep going down from 2013, it's there.
No, I mean, on that day, put like fake coordinates and fake information about
We're not that smart. Not the greatest of answer, but no, yeah. The metadata that was in the photo was just because of what was on the phone. So, yeah, no. That would be way cooler if it was. Any other questions?
Well, you're staying also for the coffee break, right?
I am.
Absolutely. So please feel free also to approach Kieren in the coffee break and ask your questions then if you're too shy to do it now. So thank you, Kieren.
Anytime. Oh, thank you.